here, and today we have a new episode in the art review series. And today we'll be checking out the work of Biku at Biku_2, illustrator, artist. The style is a bit different. It's not necessarily impressionistic, it is somewhat sketchy at times, or it's not as tight. So I think that's what makes it attractive for me. Even if it's out of my lane, out of my visual preference, it still looks good. And obviously, I do have a bias for the recent anime Chainsaw Man, so this kind of hooked me in. By the way, this is one of his hit pieces right now, 242k. Fuck. I want to be able to make content like this where just, whenever say there's a new anime episode out, hopefully like I get this amount of, it's hard to control this kind of thing, the likes, the following, or the retweets, but if you put enough work out there, eventually you're going to get a hit. So it's more of a numbers game. But obviously you do need a good style. You do need a good, you need good content. And for this piece, it's not even that finished. It's not like a full rendering, but it gets the story out, and it's very important to the recent anime episode. So it kind of, if you've seen the anime Chainsaw Man episode 4, I believe that's the recent episode, you can kind of understand what this scene is about. It's about these three characters being roommates, and yeah. So when it comes to the style, I do like how even the coloring isn't even that complete. Not a lot of contrast, maybe for this character named Power. So if you zoom in here, we can see most of the contrast is on this character, the chick, and it's underneath the hair strand. So you can see this contrast between this light part and then it's kind of under the hair strands or hair sections, and that's where it's the heaviest. A bit of contrast with Denji and Aki. Now for Aki, the dark blue hair is pretty obvious, but most of the contrast is on this chick. Obviously she's way closer, and the horns, obviously they're pretty dark, so it contrasted with the hair and the pink clothing. But yeah, look at how the line work isn't even that finished or that clean. It's not like an inked piece, but it gets the job done. I'm pretty sure there was a rough sketch beforehand, and then this is more of the more acceptable sketch. And it has a nice story to it. And I do like a lot of anime types of artwork because when it comes to facial expressions, I think they rule. They do exaggerate a lot of things, and it feels very playful at the same time. Oh, she's hot, by the way. So yeah. Now for this piece, I'm not sure if it's his. I think it's more of a gift, a happy birthday to Seki Tomokazu, some kind of creator, artist. So maybe this is his piece or her piece, this artist's piece. Now this one's more of an inked thing, but because even though it's black, even though it's inked, it still looks somewhat sketchy. Is this Panda from the Jujutsu Kaisen? I'm not sure, but I think it is. Is it? Maybe not. But it is more. It is more finished because you can see in the background of the specific characters, it's all yellow. So the line work has to be somewhat clean in the edge or all throughout the character edges. So here we have. Hopefully this is the artist's work because a lot of like these artists, they like retweeting a lot of other artists, which I do like. There's like a community of artists, so that's kind of cool. This is their own art review. They don't necessarily say much about the other artists' work. They just kind of retweet it because they like it. I'm just doing like a more video version of that essentially. The problem with tweeting that kind of thing or retweeting is it can muddle up your timeline, and when I want people to expect a certain kind of work from me, so it's hard to retweet. I know you can turn off retweets on Twitter, but that's just for your personal timeline. I want to make my own profile more clean, but right now there's nothing in my Twitter really that's of value. But anyway, for this artist sketch, the line work is pretty solid. It's not that clean. It is somewhat tight, so this is not the first draft, but it's not exactly like an inked piece. It's just a drawing that's somewhat finished. I love the folds here. It's hard to translate this in color. I mean, obviously, there's a colored version of it, but for me right now, it's just like I have no idea how folds work. So fuck. So this is from the Haiku anime, I believe. So this is the. I'll click on the colored version here. Now for this piece, you can still see the line work, so it looks more like a graphic novel, comic book piece. Somewhat complementary colors. You have some warms and blues. The blues are not warms and cools. The cooler colors are more greenish bluish. The warmer color is more yellow orange. It's not a bad piece, but I'm not really into the whole black ink. I mean, it looks great for comics and shit. And even in this piece, it looks actually pretty decent, but I'm more interested in the work that's where the line work is somewhat light, somewhat sketchy, somewhat, it's not that bold and heavy on the coloring, heavy on the painting. Now this one's another piece, lots of blacks, it's heavy on the blacks, but I do like the drawing, the face, even if it's not a complete painting, or even if there's hardly any like shadow work. I mean, you can tell there is some shadow with but it's with the ink. It's not like in its own layer. But the drawing itself looks nice. And I love how it's so, like the style of the face is pretty simplified and it has a nice look to it. Even if it doesn't look as 3D, it still conveys that emotion or that expression. And I think that's way more important than getting the human anatomy right. And I think that's I think that's why people are so interested in this kind of style, is because you can be more loose and free with it. We don't have to be as tight, and what matters is it looks good in the end, and there is some kind of story that's being conveyed. Even with a simple drawing, it's not, is it simple? Fuck. It's not complete. Even if it's incomplete, it still looks decent and cool. So this is another one of his pieces, or her pieces, fuck. Kind of a Chad, kind of a fuckboy vibe here. The clothes are somewhat wet, so maybe he's just sweaty from something. Oh, so here we see a pigeon with a necktie. Interesting. This one did get a few likes, about 28k. So I'm not sure if this is from some kind of manga or an original character of this artist, but you do see a bit of light line work, so I kind of like it. And it's heavier on the coloring. Now the background is mostly blurred, I think. I love the way the hair is rendered. All of this thing, or this whole piece, is more on the yellow-green side. It's on the cooler side. A bit of warmth here from the sun, or warmth from the sun, but yeah. A bit of soft brush here for the light effects, but look at how the face is rendered. Now this one's more 3D. The face is more solid compared to the recent sketch we viewed. So yeah, I do like the line work. It's not as strong, and just leaving some lines for you to see, for the audience to see, isn't that bad, I think. And it looks kind of cool. It feels more alive. It feels more like it's done naturally. I love the clavicles. There are no nipples here, so whatever. The clavicles are nice. Long hair. I have long hair as well, so this kind of looks like me. I wish, but yeah. And again, there's not a lot of texture in the work. It's mostly just a bunch of values. And because there's so much value variation and diversity, it looks good. You don't really need that much texture. It's not like photo bashing where it adds an extra something. You don't need it for pieces like this. So here we have another sketch that's, I'm not sure if, hopefully it's his or her piece. This is more of an inked work. A bunch of random stuff here. Kinda hot. I do love the folds. Let's zoom in. You can still see a bit of that line work. Although the line work here, oh shit, this is a bit more clean, I think. This takes time to finish. And I do love how the folds were done with the jacket and obviously with the pants here. It looks so natural, and there's a bit of noise added in the end, just to add a bit of a grit, I guess, to the painting or illustration. But the variation of values, especially in the folds, in the hair, that's where usually in these types of artwork you can see more variation of values in the folds, the clothing, and the hair. And sometimes in the eyes, especially if they do or if these artists do close-ups of the face, the eyes are like super pretty and just it's almost like a universe, like a galaxy. So the only accent color here, the accent color here is red, and there's a bit of glow in it. But so it's red, blue, white. Now these ones are cleaner. So this guy or this artist does have a variation of intensity. Now this one, you see a lot of like pastel colors here. Light orange, light pink, purple. The face is still pretty, so that's nice. And I like how there's a bit of orange in between the shadow part and the light part. This does happen in real life, but I do like how this actual painting or illustration looks more like it does look like a pastel painting. The line work is not as strong, although it's a bit tight. I do like the first piece I showed, the recent one or the one I started off with. That's my favorite, I think. Now, this one's kind of okay. It's more energetic. I do like it's not as tight, or it doesn't feel as tight. Oh, I love the way the neck was done. I mean, the face is hot. I mean, fuckboy vibes. But look at how the neck is. There's some cool here for the shadows. So it's not just a black thing. There's even like a variation. There's a slight gradient with the shadow part of the neck, or just behind the chin. That bit of orange here, it's a nice touch. And again, there's not a lot of texture brushes here, which kind of goes against what I'm into, because I did start off, or I was more inspired by concept art. So concept art for games and films, they do have way more texture. There's a bit of photographic or photorealism in the piece, but like the illustrations tend to look more full. But for this kind of content, I think it's a nice contrast to that. Some bit of light part here. Let's just zoom in. Fuck it. Okay, so here we are. Now you can see a bit of chaos with the folds. And for the folds, you don't need to get everything right. Just adding a bit of random stuff. For as long as you get like the proper essentials there, after you've done that, you can just kind of mishmash and be more impressionistic. Once you have like the main folds, you can do like just adding a bit of chaos, I think adds to that fold like effect. Assuming there's like a stretch or there's like something squishing, sure, but you know what? I have no idea what I'm saying because I'm not good in this kind of thing. Apologies, but hopefully I'm right eventually. I do love how the hair was done. It's mostly flat, but there's a bit of light area here for the highlights. The face, the expression, tongue out, very nice. Again, this orange part right here, and even the neck, the clavicles look nice. The clavicle is pretty clear, even if it's not. You can still see a bit of that slight line work. It's not exactly clean. It's just more confined and more precise. There's still an element of energetic thing there, but it's not as strong. The coloring takes over eventually. You can see more of that line work in the face, and even in some parts of the hand, you can see some variation in line weight as well. Even if it's not as common or not as seen anymore, it still adds. It has that mixed media kind of look, which it helps. I love how the hand was rendered. This part right here looks way more realistic. Even the folds of the fingers, damn. And even the shadow of this hair strand, it's not just black, it's blue. So a lot of playfulness with the colors. I think that's what makes Biku's work eye-catching. So I think we'll end the video here. He has a bunch, this artist has a bunch more in the Twitter profile, in this profile, so you could check it out. It's a bit random, and there is a variation of styles, so you get to have everything. You have more inked work, more sketches, more painterly stuff, similar to this one. It looks nice. I do like this part right here, the highlight. The edges are somewhat in a haze. It's a bit soft. It feels somewhat photographic. The hair, they look like dreadlocks, I think. And there is no line work for this piece, but it still has that same vibe. Very colorful, very energetic, pretty face. Again with the eyes, even if we're kind of far away, just a bit, or we're not exactly like that close to the eye, it still looks pretty. And the nose is often simplified, and the lips they always feel or look luscious, or they always make the lips look very kissable and wet. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this art review. Check out Biku's work. All of his links will be in the description below, and I'll see you in the next art review.